Alrighty, guys, gals, folks of all ages, welcome to Subscriber Appreciation Day for February of 2018. Today is March 4th, 2018, so there's been a bit of a delay, but still, it's exciting times. I already see people are starting to fuel in, so my guest will be here momentarily, so I'm just going to talk to you guys for a few minutes while she gets ready to come on in. So I see we've got Ducted Steven and Jacob Spangler and Ace and Audible Anarchist and all those people. So I'm just getting ready to do the thing. Oh.
Hi.
Your sounds. Hello. Sorry, I started the stream already, so you are.
Oh, are we live?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Sorry, no warning whatsoever, but yes.
Sorry.
Hello. No problem. So everybody, this is Mexie, who has the channel that is self-titled.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I need to fix this stream here so I can see it live because I'm seeing a replay of myself. I'm like a noob at streaming, so.
Me too. I only do it because Google made this thing that makes it super easy.
Yeah. I see you're wearing a Bernie shirt.
Yes. Yes.
This?
I've got the pins back there. I have a long history with the Sanders brand. I got really into him when I used to live in Quebec, really close to the border with Vermont, and I knew a lot of Vermontian exchange students or international students. And it was around the time of his filibuster in 2010. And I kind of got into him ever since then.
Yeah, I was pretty into him, I guess, like, you know, around the time he was running, because I was just so shocked that anyone in the United States would be running on such a platform. It just seemed like I thought that would never happen in my lifetime, just given, like, you know, the tenor of politics over here.
Yeah. I actually, it's really strange because, like, Vermont is a very small state.
Mm-hmm.
Like, incredibly small, very rural. And so, like, all of the politics happens around a single city, Burlington.
Oh, yeah, Burlington.
And so one of the things that I noticed, or when I started talking about Vermont to people from Vermont, is like I had a roommate who dog sat for Howard Dean.
Oh, yeah.
and that because Bernie Sanders started his political career as the mayor of Vermont for several years, he used to do what sticks out very, very Bernie-like is a public spaghetti dinner where everybody in Burlington was free to come for free food.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so he had a reputation as just being this guy, this like mayor, and all of a sudden he's running for president. It's weird. It was a weird thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's too bad he was usurped by the DNC.
The machine.
The machine.
Yeah. I mean, we could go into that in a bit, but first, I would like you to introduce yourself to all these people on here who have never heard of you.
All right. So my name is Mexie, and I have a YouTube channel with the same name, and I talk mostly about capitalism. And, well, basically, I do political economic analyses of, I guess, current events or just different issues. A lot relates to the environment and also veganism. And I also have a podcast, the Vegan Vanguard podcast, for you to check out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I've seen that you've collaborated with a whole lot of other people in the past. You've done other streams. You once randomly appeared in the United Kingdom for a Bad Mouse Productions video.
Yeah. No, I was visiting a friend who had just had a baby, and she lives in the same city, I guess, as Bad Mouse, and I was just like, oh. So obviously we had to collab. That was fun.
Yeah. And your recent series, I guess it was only a 2-part series, but it was on disaster capitalism. Very much felt a lot. There was a time when Naomi Klein came to talk at my university a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, I remember these things.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that one it's kind of like what I study, which is political ecology. And then, yeah, Naomi Klein did a bunch about it, but hers is a bit more broad, where she looks at disaster capitalism in, the sense of both disaster, but also war and conflict. Whereas my series was kind of more just about the environment, but still a lot of overlap, definitely. Very shock doctrine-esque. I love Naomi Klein.
Yeah, she was pretty great. And I actually got to say hi before the show. But one of the things that I remember, that stuck out was that it was a talk in like January of 2016, and so there was a certain question dangling over the whole room that really dominated a lot of the discussion. But she had this whole presentation ready to go, but everyone was like, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but that was still the trauma of November hanging over everything.
Well, that's awesome. I would love to meet her. She's been one of my idols for a while. Yeah. So you live in Ontario too. I'm trying to get this fixed. Like, for some reason, when I'm looking at the YouTube stream, because I want to see the chat, but when I'm looking at the video there, it's lagged, or I can't get it to like.
If you go to like there's like a thing on the side, chat options, where you can actually pop out the chat into its own window, and then you can just close the actual stream. That
would be awesome. Pop out chat. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we both live, I think, in the same city.
What?
Yeah.
Oh. You live in Toronto?
Yeah, I live like half a block from a TTC stop and everything.
Oh, dude. Okay. Well, we should hang out.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm in the East End.
I'm in the center end. I don't know what you call it.
Like right downtown?
Yeah, like between Bay and Yonge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Well,
my wife works at Queen's Park, and so we moved here.
Oh wow. Okay. Great. I did not know that. I knew you were in Ontario, but I thought you were somewhere else.
It's a recent-ish movement. I moved here last summer from London.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still somehow technically a Western student. We'll see how that goes, but
taking history, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I had to like the move's been weird because I've had to like, if I want to get library access, I have to like negotiate with U of T to let me look at books and all sorts of other things like that.
That sucks. U of T has a great library though.
It's true, and they guard it ferociously.
Yeah, I guess
there's you have to take an elevator up to the books, and there's this nice old lady who looks at your who like has to see your student card before you're allowed in. And I was like, man, Western's not even close to this fancy.
Yeah, that always really bugged me. I didn't like that. I did my undergrad there, and then I did my PhD and stuff at York.
Yeah. Given the work you're doing, that makes a lot of sense. It is a very York type of work.
Yeah, actually, we're going on strike tomorrow.
Western's known for being a very conservative campus. But even then, our union is talking about it. We're in negotiations, and the union just sends me emails every few days about like, no, not saying we're doing a strike or anything. We're just happening to have this social event where we're going to tell everybody about what would happen if a strike were to occur. It's like, oh, okay.
What? Yeah. Well, hopefully you strike. Like, our union is awesome. Like, I owe a lot to our union. We have actually really good benefits, and well, I mean, like, we still get paid like shit actually, but at least we have like good benefits, and like, they've been really active in protecting the rights and benefits that we do have. So, but yeah. Yeah,
I was a steward in the past, and so I can just imagine what is going on over there now.
Yeah, I mean, every year they just keep trying to like claw it back, and then we just go on strike, and it's just like, what is this game? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just don't. How about that? But yeah.
Yeah, I actually, there's a Bad Mouse production video that kind of speaks into that kind of thinking, where it's like, if our labor is becoming less and less valuable and more disposable and kind of meh, then even our ability to strike is losing its sort of weight.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I like for the university, it's like, well, you can't really do anything. Like, you can't continue if all the TAs and all the contract faculty are striking. So it's like, why are you holding out so long? You know what I mean? It's like, in this case, we actually do have power to stop the operation of the entire university. So it's like, do you think that we're just gonna stop striking? Like, no, we're gonna wait until you actually come to the table and negotiate. And like, what we're asking is so minuscule as well. It would cost like, you know, a fraction of a percent of their budget, and it's just like, seriously, like, you're gonna do all of this just to save that tiny money?
Mm-hmm.
Just don't get it.
Well, the president's got to rake in their $1 million a year or whatever.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty much. It all goes to the top.
I don't know if you followed that. We're the ones who had that big controversy a couple years ago, where the university president was like working during a sabbatical and made something like $947,000 a year in a year where they were trying to push austerity on their grad students.
Oh my God.
And the grad students had a record high use of a food bank and everything like that. And I was like, oh, jeez.
Oh my God. Grad students are already paid like shit. So it's like, come on. I didn't hear about that, but that's disgusting.
Yep. And he did a sorry, not sorry email and went on a quote unquote listening tour. Feels very much out of the Trudeau playbook.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sorry, not sorry.
Whenever the first horrible thing that Justin Trudeau has done in his life comes to light, that'll be exactly how it goes down.
Oh, I'm sure it's already come to light.
Oh, I've heard rumors, but I haven't seen it in a big thing yet. So I'm always like, well, I'm always like, but yeah, there's whispers upon the lines that Me Too's coming for Justin Trudeau at some point.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that would be so devastating for him, since he, you know, parades around as like the feminist.
Mm-hmm. I complain about him a lot, and I know that at least my wife is watching, and she would get really bored of me complaining about Justin Trudeau again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously I didn't vote for him, and I'm not like supportive of him at all. But I hate how in Canada, it's like, if you criticize Justin Trudeau, like if Me Too came for Justin Trudeau, then I feel like everyone would just swing to the right instead of being like, no, let's actually think about how to progress here, you know? Mm-hmm. Like I'm really worried about Ontario just swinging to the right again because the Liberals suck. But I'm like, no, go to the left. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah. To talk about Ontario politics, it's a weird situation too, because they'll do it even when like the right-wing party right now is falling apart in the most like egregiously horrible way possible. Mm-hmm. So for those in the audience who don't know about the intricacies of Ontario provincial politics, our Conservative Party leader went down for basically sexual harassment in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And so he resigned, and then there was a new leadership race, and then he decided to unresign and run in that leadership race, and they kicked him out. And now it's made up of a former Conservative Prime Minister's daughter, a person I've never heard of, and Rob Ford's brother.
Yeah. If you don't know who Rob Ford is, please look that up, because that was a hilarious moment in time.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then of course the left-wing options have their problems too, because like they have a leadership that is very entrenchant and not growing in popularity, and like I feel like it's a party that needs a shakeup but isn't doing such a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really sad that Nikki Ashton wasn't the nominee, but whatever. Jagmeet's fine, and Andrea Horwath is like fine. But I'm just like, I'm gonna have to start like campaigning hard for her because I'm just like, I don't want to see either of the other parties get in.
Yeah, that's gonna be the reason we're talking about it is it's coming up in like May, June, so it'll be there's a city election too this year, isn't there too?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not paying attention.
I only know because Desmond Cole is thinking about running for mayor.
Oh, okay.
Desmond Cole is the leader of Toronto's chapter of Black Lives Matter. He's like a big media presence and all that kind of stuff. So he's
well, I mean, that's cool. I don't know what his politics are though beyond Black Lives Matter.
Fair enough. He was on Canada Land for a while, if that says anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of given up.
Yeah, well,
on like everyone's like up in arms over like everything Trudeau is doing, and I'm just like, I didn't like, who expected him to be like any kind of like revolutionary? It's just another neoliberal. Like it would be the same with any other neoliberal, you know. So
it's been long enough that I'm no longer just enamored that his name isn't Stephen Harper, which was nice.
Yes, yeah, that lasted like a week.
Yeah. So this is supposed to be Subscriber Appreciation Day, where we appreciate the subscribers a step back by me bringing cool people on here. So if you guys in the chat have questions that you would like to seed into long, rambling conversations, then please seed away.
Seed.
I did when you were talking about Nikki Ashton, she was actually the person I actually joined the party to vote for, and
yeah, me too. And it didn't work out.
Yeah, the ND that's the other Canadian politics problem, is that the NDP is our only viable left-wing choice for politics right now, and also is, I think from my experience, I've been involved in watching Canadian politics for about 10, 11 years, and they are perpetual disappointments.
Yeah, no, I'm just not that invested.
They're very good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Someone asked how left-wing is the NDP. Not very. It's like social democratic.
They're trying.
They're trying.
It's it has a long history. It has like legit socialist roots, like in farmers co-op type parties and things like that. But then one thing the NDP has, as must be part of their strategy playbook, is that whenever they get a whiff that they might win an election, they start compromising on all of their values and lose a lot of support from the people who voted for them, and then they lose. Because if you want watered down semi-left-wing stuff, you can mostly just choose the Liberals because they have a higher chance of winning in most cases.
And most people do.
And they're more left-wing out in the prairies where their like real support base is, like in Manitoba and Saskatchewan and stuff. But here, they're not doing so hot. And when they were gaining seats, it was, I mean, like in the 2000s, they decided to remove the word socialist from their party charter. And now they're trying to put it back because they're trying to capitalize on the Sanders-Corbyn moment.
Yeah. Tad too late. Like they could have been at the forefront, but anyway. Someone asked if we think it's a sign that younger leftists are less sectarian that we see young Marxists, anarchists, and Demsocists doing so many friendly and productive live streams and podcasts together. I mean, are they?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like some of those groups are used to being so small, and like if you're an anarchist, you are more often so like such in the minority of politics. You're already a political pariah in your social group of friends. You kind of are forced to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I'm not seeing these like friendly streams. I'm like, because I'm kind of like in the middle of like a few groups where I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm totally non-sectarian, but then I'm friends with people who are like MLs. I'm friends with people who are anarchists. I'm friends with people who are whatever the hell. And I mean, I just see a lot of like infighting and like serious drama going on all the time. But I mean, I don't know. If people are doing these friendly live streams across different, ideologies, then that's great. Yeah, I don't know really, but
it's a literally centuries old problem.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah. So the other question we've got here, all right, I get a lot of these questions, and I might try to figure this out, and that is I get a lot of questions about obscure leftist political movements and asking what I think about them. And one of this is anarchist egoism, and I have never heard of that term in my life.
Somebody just asked me about that also, and I don't know what that is either. I'm like not up on egoism in the slightest. I think that's mainly just a meme. But having said that, like I haven't looked at that at all. It's really not like what I'm interested in either. Like I'm really interested in like more actual political economy. So
yeah,
no idea.
Let's hope. What's his name? Zek60 is not paying attention, because I like organizing politics around issues and things I care about, and not people with 7-syllable names from Eastern Europe in the 19th century. So,
What, Zek60?
Yeah, I think that's I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Oh, I like him. He's cool. He like doesn't really, I don't know. He's not like pushing any one particular ideology, I don't think. Or he used to be, but he seems to not that much anymore.
I'm goofing based on like a war he had on Twitter a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, everyone seems to hate him, so he's in a lot of wars, but I think he's really great, so.
Seems nice enough. I've never actually talked to him. I was just...
Oh, yeah. No, he's quite nice. But yeah, I mean, there's wars that's what I'm talking about, the drama. Like, there's wars all the time that I'm just trying to, like, stay out of.
I'm not... yeah. But it was a fight over, like, how invested and how... Like, it started off with Peter Coffin, I think, making some statement about theory and how we should... Like, theory is great, but like we should be organizing around, issues and principles, and not like having this kind of browbeating mentality about how much obscure leftist literature you've read. Oh yeah.
And then he was, I didn't really pay attention to that too much, but I saw him saying we should be reading theory, and it's like, yeah, we should. But yeah, I agree. And there's so many like leftist concepts and terms that I feel like we should not be talking about at all. Like we don't ever need to say dictatorship of the proletariat ever, because like that nobody knows what that means, and it sounds scary. And if you say something and you have to then follow that with like 15-20 minutes to actually explain like, no, wait, it's not that bad, then like you shouldn't be using it. Like, I don't know. There's so many things like that I feel are not serving the left.
Yeah, we need rebranding. We need what's
it
called, that the ContraPoints photoshopped what's it called? Vaporwave Marx and Engels reader.
Yes. Yeah.
Is anyone here watching The Currency's Not Homeland? No.
No.
Unless you are, no. Does Canada have an IWW presence? Kind of. Not very big one, though. It exists. They have a Canadian branch. I think it's here in Toronto. I would imagine. I'd be surprised if their office is one entirely their own and has more than 6 people. They don't really do things here.
Yeah, I haven't really heard of much going on with them, but yeah.
They're having a bit of a moment in America, but that's because they have that infrastructure. But yeah, they have a token existence in Canada, yes. Unfortunately, it's really hard to start an organization that's national in this country because we have a lot of space and not a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. We have like no people.
So there's a lot more local things. Hence why I said, like, even our national organizations, like our political parties, don't even have the same political crib notes province to province, because they all do their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think of New Zealand? What do you think of New Zealand's current government? I don't expect you to be familiar. It'd be cool to hear your thoughts. Do you know anything about?
I don't know anything about it. Please let me know about it.
The only cool thing I remember hearing about what's happened in New Zealand lately is that their prime minister had a baby, and she's like, yeah, I'm not resigning, or I'm not like even taking a break over this.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, I'm just going to do it. I was like, oh, that's that. Fortunately, it's all the way. It's like as far away from Canada as one can possibly imagine.
I mean, that's cool, but I hope she also like gets time with her child.
I think she does. I know it's like it's like a stay-at-home dad situation, but that's about the most I know.
Oh, that's nice. Oh yeah. So Jacob said Revolutionary Left Radio is a good example of a friendly pan-leftist podcast. You're right. I love Rev Left Radio. It's very good, and he's very friendly. But I feel like he's very open, but I feel like if different factions of people that he had on his show were to then try to talk to each other and like have a debate, I'm not sure how friendly that would be, because he does like one at a time. So I don't know. But yeah, Rev Left Radio is cool.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's I wrote it down as a thing to check out later. I was going to pretend that I knew anything about it, but I decided not to.
Oh yeah, it's cool.
And someone's got an question about, they want to know about Mr. Charlie Angus. He was a person who was running for leader of the NDP. He was like he kind of reminded me of like every high school counselor ever.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I think he was in a punk band, I know, in the 70s.
Oh really?
Yeah, which is like
That's surprising.
Yeah, if you saw him and heard him talk, you'd be so surprised. But he's like an old guard NDP, like older than the kind of centrist wave that happened in the late 90s and 2000s. He's from like the pre-Jack Layton NDP a little bit, so he's got a bit more of a radical streak to him, but still he's very, very, as far as like what's acceptable in federal politics, he's still very, very soft.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't super excited about him. It's just kind of like middle of the road, like not terrible, but not super exciting.
Yeah, and they did rank ballots, and I think he was a solid 3 for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see what we got here. There was an episode of Rev Left Radio on ego. Okay, what's with the egoism?
Darn.
Everyone wants the egoism.
Yeah, I never really understood that whole meme.
It's a meme?
Well, yeah. Kind of. But
in what way?
Just like spooks, and like everything's a spook, and like I don't know.
Is this like the kind of conspiratorial tanky left who's saying that a lot of like left-wing communists, which is a thing that has to be a thing now, that they're like this secret? I don't know. I have not even known that so many of these things existed, but like people who are like trying to take down the left by insisting on all of these things that they don't like. Sounds about what their thing is.
I don't even know. Like, well, for the egoism thing, I think it's like more philosophical. Like it's supposed to be more about like, I don't know, how we understand things and whatever. But I haven't actually looked into it like at all. So I can't say. Okay. It never felt relevant to me. So I just never bothered. But everyone's asking me about it. And I'm like, I guess I should look into it, but.
What they want. There's actually, kind of reminds me that the first video of yours I found was like right before you went to go take a break to finish your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
It was that identity politics video, and I was like,
oh yeah,
This is the video. I need to subscribe to this channel right now.
Oh, good. Yeah.
That was a good one.
I got mixed responses.
I know that the identity politics thing shows that like there's still you can still be left wing and still have a kind of sympathy and empathy gap with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows. I think in some ways it shows still how it's still a very young male movement, which needs to be a little deprogrammed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So one question I have, someone asking, "Are you communists?" And it's like,
yeah, because communism is just wanting like a classless, egalitarian, wonderful utopian society. So I'm all about post-scarcity and egalitarianism and, you know, a wonderful leftist world. So yeah, that's it's like what are you asking me? Like, am I Stalin or am I wanting like
yeah.
You know?
That's why I was hesitant on saying it, because like, yeah, it is a word that it's another one. It's like dictatorial. It's like dictatorship of the proletariat. It's one of those words that we might need to just retire.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's a word that we should reclaim, because it's like, well, actually, this means something very positive, you know. But I don't know. So yes.
I mean, that'd be good too. Okay, this sprouts out interesting conversations whenever I talk with left-wing people. It'd be good to hear some good takes on this. And that's thoughts on the runaway successful podcast Chapo Trap House.
I have never listened to that podcast. And I know that I should. I feel like I'm kind of out of the loop on a lot of like leftist stuff. I know that people post, because I can see like where people post my stuff or whatever, and I know people often post my stuff in the Chapo Trap House Reddit. But yeah, I've never actually listened to it, so.
All right, this will be fun. This will be fun to explain. Are you? Okay. So you're Twitter literate, yes?
Yeah.
So how familiar are you with, I think, the kind of avant-garde art movement, which would be called Weird Twitter?
I am not.
All right.
Should I go look at some hashtags?
They don't really have hashtags. It's like Twitter. It's like this kind of Twitter movement. It is like this sort of comedy that is extremely, almost Dadaist in its mentality, where they will either like pretend to get involved in something that's really serious, but then they're just turning it into absurdist comedy in strange ways. Mm-hmm. But also it attracts a lot of sort of left-wing political critique. And a few of the big stars of that put together a podcast, which was right around the time the Bernie Sanders stuff was taking off. And so they got a huge audience of like new American socialists who are trying to get into this. And one of the things I think they're scratching an itch for is that it's hard to be funny in left-wing spaces. Mm-hmm. And they are a sort of left-wing podcast run by comedians, but like left-wing in like the actual socialist sense.
Okay.
And
so I should check it out.
it's at least because of its relevance, because it's extremely popular. It's the biggest, it's the most well-funded Patreon account on the website.
I saw that. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
But they also do get in trouble, which is that they have like one woman on the entire cast. They have a sort of close relationship with the sort of edgy humor that attracted people into the alt-right in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes they say things that are a little cringy. Mm-hmm. But like they're not punching down people, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But they just are very irreverent, extremely irreverent, to the point where I think they've made some enemies.
Well, I'll check it out. Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't actually like sat down and listened to one yet. But yeah, I was on Patreon and I came across their account. Like I think it suggested it to me, and I was like, holy shit, they're making like $95,000 per month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they have a book coming out, and they're the progenitors of what I think the media is calling the dirtbag left,
Mm.
which is another. There's so many new words I've had to learn in like the last 2 years.
I know. I honestly feel like so behind because I'm just kind of like, I have like so much other work to do. So I'm just kind of like doing this whenever I get time, whatever. I'm just kind of on Twitter. But I feel like I'm missing so much of this shit because I'm just like, I don't care. I just want to actually do some analyses and then present them to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just that so many left-wing people or so many new people entered into left-wing internet spaces, and especially young left-wing people. And young people seem to be really into making up new words and new things on an almost weekly basis. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's good in a way, but it's confusing.
Yeah, no, it is good. It is good.
It is reminding me that I am old as fuck, and it's definitely like I'm like feeling aged now because of this, but
I know, seriously. I thought I was young until I came onto like online spaces and I'm like, actually, I am a grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I know a few of my fans a few of my regulars are in the audience today, and I know that many of them are high school age. Mm. And I was like, oh God, high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in high school, being political was hating George Bush.
Yeah, it's same here. Like that's about it. And like nobody really, I don't know, but I feel like we didn't have the same kind of like connection that we do have now. Like when I was in high school, we didn't have Twitter. You know what I mean? We didn't have like, yeah. So yeah.
I'm gonna date myself hardcore. When I was in high school, there was MySpace.
Yeah,
there wasn't even Facebook yet.
Same here. No, my cohort at U of T was like the first one that got Facebook. So I was there for the birth of Facebook. And then now it's just become so different. It was not this way at the starting.
I think they're starting to build something where it seems that a lot of YouTubers in this community are ridiculously close to the exact same age.
Well, there's like groups of us. Like I feel like maybe me, you, and ContraPoints are like around the same age, but then there's a lot of like the friends that I talk to on like Twitter and whatever and our group chat. Most of them are like early 20s, or I guess like yeah. There's like a bunch that are like 20. There's a bunch that are like 25, and then there's like the rest of us.
Who are somehow facing 30 soon and already feel old because our society's accelerated. We're like moving into being 29 used to be young like 30 years ago. Now it's old.
Mm-hmm. I'm even older than that. Oh, I'm getting a call.
Uh-oh.
No, I blocked it.
All right. I got a question about what you think about. All right. So I've talked a lot on this channel about my Marxism is very weird compared to a lot of people. In that it's like very focused on superstructure and base, and that I think that a lot of the relations of production are emergent phenomena of the technological reality we live in, which makes me really into developing new technologies and post-scarcity economy stuff.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Which means that I have a lot of questions about transhumanism and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you explain a bit more about what you mean by you think that the ills of our society have to do with technology?
That was well-timed. That was a well-timed text message.
Yeah, sorry, I have to.
That's okay. So when I see a lot of... It kind of comes out of me also being a pacifist in a lot of ways and seeing that there's sort of this hopelessness to these violent revolutions attempt to change society that usually result in just being endless cycles of more and more violence. And I came to this kind of thought when I read about superstructure and base specifically, that in its own way, our society, the way that our culture works to preserve the relations of production, which is another Marxist keyword that mean that the way that our society tries to mutually defend the inequalities of the way the world works are products of usually a delayed version of the means of production, which means that the way that we make the things that the people use.
In what way?
Well, like in like an old example would say like in a feudal type society where power comes from the ownership of land to farm on, then feudal type structures build up on top of that. And that's why there's so much emphasis on the ownership of land and land rights and all that kind of stuff in that period. And then in like an industrial context with like resources and information and now close to like attention, that the way our society builds up is based on the ways that things are. I feel like it just feels more like an emergent phenomenon. I'm trying to rationalize this in any way before I sound like a complete idiot.
No, but okay, so you're thinking that technology comes before, like technology drives social change as opposed to like the economy drives technological change?
To an extent, because I'm also a technology historian who I know that there's like a social aspect to invention and the development of technology as well.
Mm-hmm.
But in a lot of cases, like when I hear people who want like violent Marxist revolutions and things like that, I saw that like when people asked for my critique of like the Soviet movement and the Russian Revolution, and then I thought that they kind of were putting the cart before the horse, because what Marx was writing about was the impending encroachment of a post-scarcity economy, and that communism would be the economy of the post-scarcity world. And trying to create it in the moment they were in led to a lot of the problems that they ended up having to deal with by being brutal and horrible and monstrous. And that's why like I always thought that like until relatively recently, maybe this is why capitalism stuck as long as it did, is that there was issues about that we were putting the cart before the horse, I guess, about whether or not humans or the economy that we build up around us drives history.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not like a scholar of technology. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of more on the other side, where I think that economic relations and social relations, I mean it's a bit of both. Like it's probably a dialectical relationship.
No.
But that, especially if we're talking about like the kind of automation that's done under capitalism to replace workers, etc., then I would say that's very linked to the capitalist accumulation process itself. And Marx talks a lot about that, about how capitalists forced to compete with one another will have to increasingly reinvest their capital to advance their own production process in order to advance, like get more capital to then invest. So I see those as pretty interlinked. So okay, I get a lot of questions about transhumanism too, but can you explain like what that means exactly?
All right, it's a movement of it's a intellectual movement of people who it's kind of a idea of people trying to work out the philosophical implications of emerging technologies. So transhuman is talking about some of the things that are upcoming, especially like widespread expansions in the areas of being able to tinker around with our genetic code, being able to tinker around with things like cybernetic parts, radical life extension, these kinds of technologies. And transhumanists are people who think about what are the implications and what are the things that we should think about when we start adapting these technologies, and what happens when we kind of have to broaden or change the definition of human because will be changing a lot in the near future. And most of the time, though, people who identify as transhumanists see these changes as good things.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to say. Like, I'm not sure exactly like what kind of changes are coming. Like, I'm probably one of the people that's more like, ugh. Like, I was never that excited about like AI or the idea of like being these superhuman, half robot kind of a people. Like, that doesn't really jazz me up, or like I'm not really interested in like downloading my consciousness into a computer and like living forever as a robot. Like, I'm just not I don't feel like that's for me. But yeah, I mean, some of the discussions are interesting, I guess, of like, oh, what does it mean to be a human? But then a lot of that time, I also kind of just think about like, well, we can already talk about that in terms of like animals, like, you know what I mean? Like, if we're going to broaden the term human because we're thinking about cyborgs or whatever, or like this new race of AI, it's like, well, then why wouldn't we already be talking about that in terms of animals who are already incredibly intelligent, like dolphins or whatever, you know, like animals that are self-aware and brilliant. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not, I'm like, part of me is also just like, I don't think we should be fucking around so much. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I'm curious about it. I was way more into it when I was younger because, you know, people get into their brains go to weird places when they're like teenagers, I guess, or something. But I mean, I think that a lot of the stuff that they're thinking about, a lot of it is being a cheerleader for emerging technologies, which in a lot of cases, there's some that I'm really excited about. And I think that there are a lot of things with emerging technologies that we are sort of blindly walking into without considering the ethics and the things that we're going to need to think of when they become a thing, which is kind of a plot of like every science fiction movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, a lot of it, like, but my complaint about all of these discussions is the same complaint I have with like every discussion in mainstream media, is that like nobody thinks about political economy, where I think that like under capitalism, things like genetic engineering, like especially if we're going to be altering human genomes, I think that that has the potential to be absolutely horrifying, and like a new form of eugenics, basically, and like favoring the wealthy, obviously. And yeah, you know, things like Monsanto, like being in control of all of these new technologies that are fusing genes and tech. So yeah, I feel like we can't just kind of think about ethics divorced from the social relations that we're under. And I think that under like a for-profit individualized system, a lot of these things are scary to me. And so I feel like that should be part of our like ethical discussion of whether we should go there, like at this time. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess the other thing that comes up a lot in their discussions is that the rate of technological development is reaching some sort of hockey puck stage that we haven't mentally and culturally prepared for. Again, it seems to be a lot of cheering on developing science, which, I mean, that's all right, I guess, but it's still, there's not, even the people who call themselves transhumanists don't really seem to be too into examining the ethics of the things that they're excited about, which would be my critique of that movement. That's why I kind of am not too interested in it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that's like, you can't stop it. Like, people are going to just keep doing it. But I don't know. I've seen so many like Stephen Hawking like warning about this, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, I'm the kind of person where I would rather like go and live in the jungle than like live as a robot. So that's just me.
And a lot of the things that, like, you know, as we're gonna like make GMO foods that will save the world because everyone will be able to eat, and you're like, yeah, you can do that already.
Right. Yeah.
We just weren't doing stuff like eating animals and animal products and stuff like that. It would be way easier too.
Absolutely. But I mean, already we can feed everybody. We're just not doing it because of capitalism. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of that was actually one of the Zek Sizzy videos that I would, or statements that I was took back, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that would make a lot more sense. Where he was talking about the communist revolution, and he was saying that, like, well, you know, if like the post-scarcity economy was going to create communism naturally, then it would have happened like 50 years ago, because that's when we hit that point. And I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I'm not for like ultra violent revolution either. And I feel like, yeah, but I also feel like it's not just going to seamlessly and harmoniously just move into this post-scarcity, like luxury communist utopia. That's for damn sure.
It's going to be a million battles fought on a million fronts. And
yes.
It does seem that we are entering the first turns of that game right now. And so I do think that that's some of the drivers of a lot of the problems that are going on right now. And I think that's why the 2010s seems to be the time when the world started to get really weird, and maybe the defining issue of the next few decades to whatever this century's end will be.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we're like already in it. And like there's no going back now.
Because even though it's really great to have more people on the left, the reason why people are joining the left and joining the radical right are the same, and that is the system that kept us at least enough people acceptably happy that they didn't revolt is starting to fall apart. And it's because those means of production, they be changing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And some people are going to grasp on to straws to try and hold on to it violently. And then the rest of us are going to be like, nope, doesn't work anymore. So.
All right. Question of, is market socialism useful for the left in any sense? Is that like what the Soviets were doing?
No. Market socialism is like Yugoslavia, I guess. It's basically, I think it's like, you know, workers control the means of the of production, but it's still like, I guess within a I wouldn't say a capitalist market, but there's it's like people. I think it's kind of like co-ops, and then. Like, so it's like everyone owns the means of production in terms of like they own their own workplace, but then goods are still distributed via markets. So it's not like you're abolishing that. So.
All right. And do you have thoughts about that?
I don't think it would work, because I think a lot of the same contradictions of capitalism would still arise in that system. So I think that might work for a while. But then what happens when like certain workplaces outcompete other ones, and then they're like superfluous to the system now? I just think someone said Titoism is when you have money and can't buy anything.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So I don't think it actually resolves the contradictions of capitalism. And so I think it'll eventually run into some problems. But I mean, that is better than what we have now, I would say.
So it'd be better to have it than to not have it, but there are better alternatives, and maybe spending your energy on that kind of a solution would be less than productive. All right. Do you think lower level schooling should be a bigger part of liberal policy? I'm not even exactly sure what that even means. I mean, schooling is good. You should, if liberals really wanted to defend it, that'd be good. I mean, more money for schools is good. I don't know.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, everything's getting privatized in the United States. So I think that's bad.
I mean, yeah, it is true that it seems that in the current climate, at least in American politics, that education doesn't seem to be a thing that's in the discussion area these days, except whether or not to put AR-15s in the hands of history teachers or something. But
yeah, well, I don't know, like Betsy DeVos or whatever was really trying to push privatization and like the charter school system and everything. And I mean, they were trying to make it even worse than it is now. So, but yeah, I don't see like a ton of, I don't see people like, you know, starting movements and coalescing around education other than the gun issue.
Yeah. And even like the Betsy DeVos thing, like that's a movement that's been on the right, but like, I guess they were talking about what liberals should do, and there isn't like a liberal answer to like what we should do about education. It's usually just preserve the thing that wasn't working now, which is, that's the centrist problem, is they're finding themselves getting horrible solutions from the right and solutions from the left, and they're trying to find weird ways to justify why what wasn't working now it still works. It's perfectly fine, dudes.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like, you know, Hillary didn't really get anywhere because she wasn't like inspiring anybody. She was basically like, yeah, universal healthcare, universal education, free education is just not possible. So then it was just like, okay, like if that's where we're aiming, like that's the bar, like, okay, it's just not possible. Okay, we give up. Like, like other countries have it. So anyway.
That does come up as my in-law family side is all American. I've noticed that. I mean, I also study American culture. So this comes up a lot, that there is this sort of myopia around not being able to see comparative cases, and that like they can say like, oh, universal healthcare doesn't work except for all of the other countries where they do. And it's a really, it's strange. And I don't know any other countries that does that.
Yeah. Well, Americans don't really know that much about any other country anyway, so they probably don't think everyone has socialized healthcare, even though they do.
All right. Okay. This question I think might be a bit of a troll. Did Bernie Sanders kill Rosa Luxemburg? Is this another meme?
Yes. The Social Democrats killed Rosa Luxemburg. Yeah.
So this is okay. This one might be a little fun. Accelerationism. They want thoughts on that.
I don't know. So I had one of my earliest videos was a video on Trump when he was just elected. I deleted it now because I felt like it was kind of irresponsible, because at the time I was like, okay, well, here's why it's actually might be good for the left. And, you know, I was saying things that were kind of in line with accelerationism, just that, like, you know, at least there's so much dissatisfaction with the capital system that we have now. And at least he'll be so bad that he'll probably galvanize, like he'll make people come together and like see that this is not working. And like, obviously his economic policies will fail. And then like people might realize that like going left is the only solution. But I don't know, because then like soon after that, it was like everyone was like about to lose their healthcare and like veterans and everything. And I just like, I don't think I can ever get behind something that is going to cause so much pain to so many people who aren't me. Like, I'm not in a position that's going to be hurt by any of these things. So it's like, I just feel like the people who are pushing accelerationism probably aren't like poor Black people living, like needing that healthcare desperately, right? So it's usually like white people sitting on their computers being like, great, this is great for accelerationism. And it's like, people are gonna die. And it's not like the people who are gonna get hurt are probably not the ones who voted for Trump anyway, you know? Yeah. So I just feel like it's kind of like irresponsible.
Yeah, I think the big person who said Trump might be good as an acceleration, I think, is the whitest philosopher alive today, which is Slavoj Žižek.
Yes.
Who I think is the philosophical version of an internet troll who just kind of says things so they can get people mad at him.
Yeah. Yeah. His books, like, you know, so he makes great points throughout, but then so much of it is just like unreadable. It just really is. So, but yeah, no, yeah, I feel kind of like, I also feel like people probably aren't going to get the point. Like if people haven't gotten the point by now, it's because our education system and our media and everything is set up to make sure that they don't get the point. So if things get really, really bad for them, they're just as likely to listen to like Donald Trump being like, oh, it's not my fault. It's the radical leftists. Like they're the ones ruining everything. It's the globalists. It's the Jews. Like they're just as likely to think that than they are to actually realize what the real problem is. So I'm not sure that I'm not sure that in this particular stage of capitalism that would actually be to the benefit of anyone. And like, yeah, just the amount of people who are going to suffer. Like I'll be campaigning for Andrea Horwath in Ontario, for example, where I'm like, I'm not super jazzed. I don't think her platform is like revolutionary or anything, but I just want Ontarians to like at least understand that we should be at least this is good. Like if people aren't even thinking that the NDP platform is good, they're thinking like they should be conservative or liberal. And then it's like, well, then how are we going to get those people all the way to the other side? Like if we can at least push them here and be like, see, this makes sense. And now here we are over here. You know what I mean? Like I don't see people like making those radical shifts, but you never know.
Yeah. I actually feel really, really bad because of my voting decision in 2015 and getting involved with the what were they? It was a movement that was trying to, under the auspices that 2015 wasn't really a real election because it was still first past the post, and it was an attempt to just put in whoever wasn't conservative in order to make sure that the next election could be a democratic one. Mm-hmm. And they just told you who was the non-conservative most likely to win in your riding. And
everyone participated in that. Yeah. I mean, I didn't do it, but I shared it across all my networks because I was like, everyone do this.
It also doesn't hurt that in the riding I was in, the New Democrats didn't even get around to campaigning until about a week before the election started. Mm-hmm. They obviously knew they had no chance in that riding, and so they didn't try very hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I voted New Democrat, but I was already in like a liberal lockdown riding, so it like didn't really matter. Mm-hmm. And now they're not changing first past the post, but
should have expected that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also an added complication that my wife's friend's boyfriend was the liberal candidate, and like he called me and we talked for like an hour about policy and stuff.
Oh my goodness.
It was.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then I was like kind of like, oh, but this guy's nice. Like I know him. He seems all great. And then he voted what was the thing that broke me? It was the BDS vote that I was like, oh yeah.
No.
I was like, okay, we're not friends anymore.
That really sucks.
All right, let's see this question. I got when is violence necessary?
Like for the Black Panthers, violence was necessary. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you're like actually being targeted, or when like you're at like a fucking Nazi rally and they're trying to run you over with their car or something like that. Like I don't know. I don't think there's never a time where people need to get violent. But I also like am super nonviolent and like, but then again, like I have the privilege of being nonviolent. You know what I mean? And that's not a privilege that everyone enjoys. So,
I guess I like see this sort of really unpleasant Ouroboros with like a lot of attempts to like do mass violent revolutionary type movements, where by doing so, all you do is create a whole bunch of people who lost family members and friends and loved ones because they were fighting against you. And it's not even about ideas or policies anymore. It's about the fact that people of this group killed someone that was close to me, and that's going to make them, that's going to seed them to go violent against you. And it's just like this kind of nonstop cycle. And that's...
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then, you know, if you're kind of forcing other people to do it against their will, then it's not really about like egalitarianism and like, you know, progressiveness. So yeah, I think there's like a lot of problems with that. So yeah, like I think in terms of like revolution, it would have to be like you have like 90% of people on your side, and then you have like the few like super wealthy capitalists who are like, no, don't take my stuff. You know what I mean? But it can't be like 50% and then 50% are like, fuck no, don't do this. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I always just focus on education, because I'm like, it would need to be like everyone would need to be on board, basically, you know, other than like the few like super wealthy people who own everything. Obviously, they would not be on board.
Yeah. And that's also why I like the concepts like, what was that? Is it from sort of an old IWW idea of like kind of changing the world from the inside and building your own space and kind of expanding it out and making the state, not so much making the state irrelevant by murdering every politician, but making the state irrelevant by collectivizing all the things the government purports to do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, people are already forced to do that now, right? Like they're already forced to come together and organize that. So,
yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What we got here? So, would you say it's fair to say that the Soviets managed to make the most of the rapid transition from feudalism to state capitalism in human history? I mean, that's pretty objectively true, but Russia was kind of well set up for that process, and they did it. Whether it was worth it for the amount of people who died to make that happen is another question.
Yeah, well, I mean, like they did really quite a lot that was like incredibly impressive, you know. I'm like not a scholar of everything that happened, but yeah, they definitely accomplished a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that they were able to defeat the Nazis, going from a society where they weren't even able to arm their entire military in the First World War to being able to tear apart their factories brick by brick, put them onto trains, move them further inland, and rebuild them entirely to keep the war going in World War II shows that like a lot changed.
Yeah, and then like they were also like the other superpower rivaling the US. They were like the first to get into space and everything, which is just like nuts, you know? So
yeah. And then that's after losing 13% of their population not 20 years ago. Are you still doing So That Happened podcast tonight? Yes, I am. Don't worry about that. That's a insider channel thing, I guess. It's the other stream I do. Sometimes it's also on Sunday nights, and so once a month I have to do 2 streams in one day.
Oh, wow.
It's a long day, but it's a good day. What do you think about pirate parties? That's another question that came up.
What is that?
Pirate parties. So they're a group of political parties. You know how like kind of Green Party has turned into like a brand, and there's like Green parties in multiple countries.
Yeah.
Pirate Party is sort of the same thing, but it's a radical. I would probably say it's a radical anti-copyright movement.
Okay.
So they are a political party that focuses around issues to do with freedom of information and copyright, and they're small but existing presences in a lot of countries, including Canada. But the place where they actually do have weird prevalence is in Iceland, where they're actually a major political party now. That's basically the pirate party.
But like, but are they like right wing, left wing? Like, is it change?
I think they're mostly a left-wing party. They're mostly about like opening up information, getting rid of copyright and paywalls for things, and but also,
I mean, like economically though, like are they left or right economically?
I'm not sure, but I think they might be one of those parties that are kind of, we have this one issue and that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I know that they were really pro WikiLeaks, but I have no idea where that's gone since WikiLeaks went a little bananas.
Yeah, Julian Assange just really lost it.
That was, I mean, you lock anybody in a tiny apartment for like going on like 6 or 7 years now, and any of them will go crazy.
I mean, I guess, but like, I don't know. Yeah, just
that's not me defending him, by the way. That's just.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, I have never experienced that, so I don't know exactly you know, how I would feel or think, but I just feel like, how would you just abandon everything that you like stood for or cared about? I don't know, but yeah.
I think he's just gotten so far out of touch with the world by, think of, like, I mean, Trumpism and Trump support seems to just be a side result of a lot of people who have spent way too much time seeing the world only through the lens of the internet, that maybe that's what happened to them.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Because, like, to be a Trump supporter, to be like in that sort of internet alt-right space, you pretty much, there has to be like a strong empathy gap between you and other people, usually by not interacting with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like people sitting there in your house watching the news and being like, "Oh God."
Yeah, because I can't imagine having the kind of views that like alt-right people have on race and nation if they don't actually go out, if they went out and actually talked to other human beings and interacted with them.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, maybe it's like easier for us because it's like in Toronto, I couldn't imagine. Like, I feel like a lot of people live in places where like they don't see people who aren't white. You know what I mean? Or like they just, it sounds very scary or something. But I don't know. But then again, like a lot of Canada is like, if you go past like Barrie, everybody is white, and I feel like people aren't driven into the same kind of like hysteria that all of these Trump supporters are driven into. Anyway,
that's why I imagine that this is another thing about education, and that one of the best ways that we could make the world a better place is just to introduce people to new people and new ideas. And which then makes me think, is there like a link between this hyper right-wing antisocial type movement and like the bowling alone syndrome? I don't know what to call it, but like the sort of isolation that has come with the breaking down of third spaces and people being overworked and under losing that sense of community. I wonder if there's anything to that.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, and that's the whole point of like neoliberal economics, is to like individualize and like atomize all of us so that we are just workers. We are disconnected from life and like other people, so that we don't come together. We don't unionize. We don't think about solidarity or whatever. It's like, it's exactly the point. So that's probably getting worse because we're entering this like hyper stage of intense ass capitalism. Almost like communism, but no.
And then you have that that dangerous combination of access to the internet and the sort of egocentrism that comes with being having an age that is 1x. Then you have what Twitter looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, and it's a lot of like, I don't know. I mean, like when I was younger, I guess I was kind of a loner also, but I also like, we didn't spend that much time on the internet. You know what I mean? I feel like young people today, like even like in their late teens, early 20s, it's like they don't really go out with people anymore. They just like something to do is just to be on the internet and talk to people on the internet now. You know what I mean? And so I feel like that's just really, fueling a lot of this.
That's super depressing.
Yeah.
We made a dystopia, everybody. We live in one.
Yeah, no, we already do.
All right. Okay, so this is a question about the Black Panthers and the Black Panther movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
No I haven't seen it either. No spoilers. But it asks about how do you guys feel about the new Black Panther movie stealing the Black Panther Party's thunder for a liberal pro-CIA agenda? Oh, is this another spook thing?
No. I mean, I feel like they probably should not have taken that name, you know, because it does kind of water down what the movement was about. Like, but I don't know, whatever. I've seen like some people tell me, like people who have seen it tell me that it's like really great and really progressive. And then I've seen other people on Twitter saying how actually like reactionary it is. So I haven't seen it yet. So I'm like waiting to see like what I think of the movie. But I guess it is kind of weird that they would use the name Black Panther.
I will partially defend that by saying that actually the superhero outdates the party by like about 7 months.
Okay. All right.
And that they tried to change it, and that the fan reaction was so negative that they changed it back.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. I don't think people, like, when I think about Black Panther, the movie, I don't really connect it in any way to the Black Panther Party. So I feel like it's not going to harm that or them.
We might be able to have some success with a lot of accidental clicks on Google, though.
That's true. Yeah.
Search engine optimization.
Right.
We need to like have like, I think there might be something here. We should start a radical leftist party called the Avengers. And so when people Google the Avengers, they find.
Yeah. No, that's actually good. That'd be great for the rebranding.
That's if you think about it, calling the Communist Party the Avengers would be
oh my god
a fairly success. Like it's descriptive.
Yeah. I like it.
We need to get on top of this as soon as possible because justice. I mean,
yeah.
How come there's so much internet that's against social justice, but when it comes to like justice, they're like all for it? I don't know. Exactly. I think there's something to this.
Me too. Because people hear the Communist Party, they're terrified. If they hear the Avengers, like that sounds really like dignified. You know? Yeah,
and you could even have like that heroic music, and I mean,
exactly.
You have to ditch Tony Stark because he's orgy, but.
But yeah, no, absolutely.
We can make a new comic about Scrap Iron Man, which is made by people who were fired when they downsized Stark Industries and made their own robot suit.
Yes.
And there you go.
Yeah. Like that would actually catch on. Yeah, I feel like we desperately need a rebranding. Desperately.
Yeah. And we need stories. Like I read Peter Coffin's book a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. I was watching your review on that, and then I was like, oh, I don't want to watch the whole thing. I watched like half of it, and then I was like, I want to read it.
It's done something that I'm pretty impressed by, which is it's the most accessible description of what postmodernism is, which is notoriously hard to do. But one of the things that he mentions that like we did all this deconstruction with postmodernism, and we didn't reconstruct something. In its wake, we don't have something to build towards. And then my PhD research is about narrative and how our perception of the past is what it defines a lot about the way we see things. And there's like all things about myths and like nationalism, nation building is like the process of trying to create a cohesive story about a entity, whether or not it existed. And so it would be like, what's it called? Making some badass superhero thing would be the way to turn the branding around, because people are still seeing stern men with mustaches and military uniforms when they think of.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. And people are really jazzed about the ideas. Like if we just talked about the ideas, people are like super jazzed about them. But then as soon as you say like certain words, people will just like shut off, and you're like just a horrible like murderer or something like that, right? So yeah, no, that I think that would be really awesome. People would be excited, especially like young people.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's just stories. Like that's why all of those people out there who think that when they say like, oh, this movie, like it's just a movie or it's just a thing, like representation is not that important. Like this is why it is important. Culture and narrative how we build our self-concepts.
Yeah, for sure.
Making this kind of stuff is good. Didn't the Soviet Union get rid of rationing before the British did? I think they did. I'm not 100% on that, but I do remember that. I think they did actually. But that's also because the British kept rationing for like a really long time. They had a really hard time getting back on their feet after World War II because they no longer had colonial subjects to exploit for their profit.
Not directly, anyway.
Yeah. Well, the Americans were taking them all.
Yeah.
I did a whole thing about how they had made this whole economic order based on the price of silver, which locked all of their colonial subjects being stuck with trading with the British primarily. but then they moved it to gold after World War II so that they were all stuck trading with the Americans. And that's how like America fiscally took over the planet. It's quick thing. All right. So, oh, fine. Hey, I saw you on Thought Slime yesterday, Friday, actually. Why didn't you answer, man? Was I on Thought Slime yesterday? Was you on Thought Slime yesterday?
I was not.
Thought Slime? Thought Slime, he's another leftist YouTuber who lives in Toronto. I actually had coffee with him about a month or two ago.
Oh, okay.
He's another one of those Adobe Illustrator cartoon person type channels, but he does various essays. I think the big video that he got was a lot of attention for. It was a video called "Why Social Justice is Kind of Awesome," or something like that, or why. Yeah, so it was good though. He's a good YouTuber, but.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was not there.
Yeah. Apparently, he was talking to somebody else, and I was just looking for questions, and I just saw a question mark and picked it up. All right, we have more questions, anybody? Anyways, what kind of things are you working on at the moment? I know that you just finished your PhD. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, okay, so I'm doing like a bunch of things at once. Like I'm working as a freelance writer. I'm starting a new podcast with Monthly Review where I'm going to be interviewing contributors to their journal. And I'm starting like a mini postdoc where I'm going to be just basically writing articles for this one project. Basically, I'm just kind of like doing a bunch of stuff for a while, and I'm going to be applying for things in September. So yeah, I'm kind of in like limbo doing like a million jobs at once. So yeah.
I'm kind of trying to find a way to have money happen in the summertime because they don't pay you in the summertime.
No, they don't. They barely pay you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's all sorts of long-term stuff about work and stuff. Anyways, do you guys know any leftists in Alberta? I'm kind of lonely at the moment. I do know one. He lives in Edmonton. He's a journalist. I don't know. He works for a newspaper.
Yeah. I don't know any leftists in Alberta, no.
Sorry. I don't. And also, I know that because he's like a low-level, low-ranked journalist, he doesn't editorialize in his stuff. He literally is a saying things that happened type journalist still.
Yeah.
But I know that he's secretly woke. He's a secretly woke Alberta,
Nice.
Edmonton newspaper journalist.
Nice. Well, Alberta went NDP recently, which shocked the hell out of me because they were usually super conservative.
Yep. You couldn't thank First Past the Post for that.
Yeah.
They split the right. That might not be the issue next time.
No.
Could you clear up right now for people that might be confused? Is Venezuela socialist or not? The answer is no. But they were
not.
There's a story. There's a whole thing. There's a couple things to say. And one is when socialist movements try to happen, very often the entire international community will do whatever they can to economically and diplomatically isolate them and destroy them. And then when they collapse, say, look, communism doesn't work because this happened.
Absolutely.
That happened to an extent, but there was also the extent that Hugo Chavez did a lot of stuff to make things better. And he did it at the expense of a lot of long-term planning. And he did a lot of stuff that a lot of other countries did, but had the resources to weather a bit better because nobody was anticipating that the price of oil would go down in a big way. And so he built a welfare state on top of the high petrodollar, which is logical if you were in that situation. I mean, getting off of oil would have been smarter, but given the situation he was in, then he died, and he didn't really have a successor who was as strong-willed about these kinds of things as he was, and it turned into typical politics.
Yeah,
countries that aren't stable.
Typical U.S. crosshairs, and also they have all that oil, so it's like, of course you're going to be in the U.S. crosshairs. So now it's all about regime change, and it's sad because the poor people in Venezuela, I was watching Abby Martin's coverage in it, and like the poor people there are actually, you know, supportive of not allowing US imperialism to come and like ruin things. But it's actually the wealthy people who are like full on in the opposition and like killing people in the opposition and everything. So, but anyway, no, it's not socialist. Like that was their end game, but they didn't get there. But
yeah. Hugo Chavez was a socialist, but what he was doing was using a socialist mindset to try and fix a lot of very deep, very hard to overcome problems, and he didn't live long enough to see it to fruition. And on top of that, the U.S. was always screwing around with him. I think he was even once kidnapped by the CIA for like 10 days or something.
He was kidnapped, and they actually told the people of Venezuela, "Oh, he resigned. He resigned, guys." And everyone was like, "What?" And like luckily the military was on his side, and so they tried to tell the military like go in and declare that like this new person's going to take over because Chavez resigned. And then the military, like, I don't know if they found him or whatever, they asked him like, "Hey, did you resign?" And he was like, "No, like reinstate me. I was kidnapped."
It's
ridiculous.
We don't quite appreciate how much how brazen U.S. intervention is in Latin America. Like the U.S. doesn't even hide it in Latin America, really.
No. Yeah, but somehow this is left out of every discussion. Like all the mainstream coverage doesn't even talk a little bit about this. It's just like opposition good, like anyone else bad. Like let's change the regime, and it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that kind of happened. I mean, I don't know what the situation was because I think it was a lot more complicated than just this. But when Brazil had a whole quiet regime change, I'm not exactly sure what, but that was also a thing where like they basically kicked out all of the women and minorities out of government and replaced it with old white man government.
Yeah.
But I know there was also issues with corruption and stuff, but I'm honestly not super well read on that. I can't even read Portuguese, so
yeah, no, I'm less familiar with the situation in Brazil, but I mean like Colombia, Chile, like it's just been so brazen. Yeah,
like they literally have these like guerrilla warfare people who get trained at an actual like American school for how to do a coup and torture people type school. It's literally called the School of the Americas. And then they just go back to their countries and will do horrible, horrible things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very sad.
It is. Especially because, the whole Monroe is keeping an entire continent of people from achieving whatever it is they want to achieve.
Exactly. Yeah, and then it just I really hate how they're just like, oh, see, socialism doesn't work, and I'm just like, if you only like, are you paying attention to what's going on? Like, you know, it's horrible.
Yeah, like if someone's climbing a ladder, and then you're at the top of the ladder, and then you tell them that you can't possibly climb a ladder, and then you kick them off the ladder when they get to the top, and then you say, look, you couldn't do it. Like, come on.
Yeah. No,
it's
exactly.
like saying that Charlie Brown can't kick a football.
Yeah. No, it's like, it's so frustrating. Yeah.
Hugo was kidnapped. How is he not killed? I'm not sure about the details on that, honestly. I know he was kidnapped. I'm not exactly sure what the story was.
I don't know why they didn't kill him, but yeah.
There is a conspiracy theory. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but this is the conspiracy theory that I don't believe, but if it turned out it was true, I would not be surprised. Which was what Hugo Chavez was saying when he was near his deathbed, which was that the CIA had found a way to give people realistic-looking cancers.
Oh, yeah. No, I've heard about that. I heard that too. Yeah.
And then in 2011, the kind of left-wing leader of Argentina got cancer. He died of cancer, and then Jack Layton died of cancer.
Yeah, no, I heard that too. I don't know much about that, but
I feel like it's one of those things where I'm not going to say I believe it, but if it turned out it was true, I would not be surprised.
I would not be surprised.
Have we got any stories? Oh my. Aydin Paladin. Have you heard of this name?
Maybe? Like, no.
All right. I'm going to do a quick Google search to see what they actually want us to comment on. Because usually when they say a name, okay, it's a YouTuber.
Sounds familiar, but
this is a YouTuber.
Okay.
Who talks about politics, and his avatar is a cartoon person. So already I'm worried. Mm-hmm. So that's usually not great. Okay, yeah, and then one of the top videos is Black Panther and the Diversity Defense Force. Yeah, so this is basically anti-Swagalian reactionary right-wing cartoon YouTuber number 8479B.
Great. So, bad thoughts then.
I mean, it happened. It's okay. Maybe that's like looking at one video. Let me just see. Okay, yeah, debunking communism in real time. Yeah, okay. I know who this person is now, because he's like a literal carbon copy of so many YouTubers that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Forget about it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. To branch out to just be about this weird, quote unquote, skeptic realm of the internet video arena, and it's weird.
Well, it's just ridiculous. And like disheartening that they have so many followers. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. Like, they're just awful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's capitalism in action. They found a way to feed and make people feel justified in their terrible opinions. Mm-hmm. They made money off of it. They got attention, so that more people are trying to do it. And it's so popular that there's like literally a new skeptical squirrel, or I don't know, like angry panda videos, or what. I'm literally making these up. So like just random cartoon reactionaries on YouTube about every few days.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, they're not even skeptical. Like, they're skeptical about the most ridiculous things, and then other things, like they'll just present things like race realism as if this is like a novel thing, like as if we haven't already debunked eugenics long ago. And they'll be like, oh, these are our new ideas. And it's just like, what? Like, how are you not understanding that there are like broader processes or like other things that are contributing to this? You know, they're skeptical about the most like inane things, and then not like they don't take other things like pure facts as facts. You know, it's just sad.
Yeah, wait until at some point they're going to start getting into phrenology again when they find out that it also justifies their reactionary beliefs, and it will. Then they'll start having like response videos where they start like circling people's heads and like looking at their skull shape, and
absolutely, yeah. It's
maybe
just
they'll
like,
even. Oh, go ahead.
No, it's like it's their target audience are people who have not studied this at all. You know what I mean? It's just like their target audience are people who just don't know anything about this, so that they can be like, oh wow, this does sound like a novel idea. And the rest of us are just like, what the hell are you talking about? This was like decades ago. We already put this to bed. Like, why are you bringing this up now?
Yeah. The world put this to bed. It was a little kerfuffle in the late 30s, early 40s, known as the Second World War, or something like that, that pretty much put all these ideas to sleep.
Right.
But yeah, it's really sad about how gigantic that industry has become. And as people who create videos in this space, their influence is never far from your imagination. I imagine your comment section is occasionally met with by these people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess some pretty disgusting comments.
Yeah, give you the double whammy of being a leftist and a woman on the internet, which is like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's never far from my radar.
And that's why you always find a new one. And I'm trying to think what the other thing was. Like, there's also, they also have this new kind of, or not new, but it's this, they don't practice this kind of responsibility that one needs to have when they have an audience, which is you realize that if you're talking to somebody who is in a public space, when you have an audience, that there is going to be a discrepancy of power there. I mean, given what their opinions are about power and social dynamics, this kind of makes sense. But then they will say, make a video talking about how terrible this person is, and this person will have a fraction of their audience, and it will result in a horrible reaction to them, and they'll get harassed and harangued and treated terribly in the worst way possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That happened to Owen McDonald a while ago. Like Bering made all these response videos to him. Bering has obviously a huge audience, and Owen at the time had like 100, 200 subs, and it was just ridiculous. And then he was just being dogpiled by everyone, and I was just like, yeah, like these people are cowards. Like they're not going to go after big names, you know what I mean? They're going to go after small YouTubers and just make them look like idiots with all of their like people piling on and insulting them. And it's just like, it's aggravating because they're the ones that have all the subs right now. So then it's like they're in a position to do that. But anyway.
Do you think the skeptic community is another example of a right-wing movement trying to co-opt left language, a la the Nazi using red and the term socialist in a shrewd peek to, and then the sentence kind of just ends. Oh, to the German left. I guess he ran out of characters.
Trying to co-opt some left language. I guess. I mean, like, I don't think they're really using left language, are they?
I mean, all right, so maybe this speaks a little bit to its longer history, but to an extent, the idea of skepticism and questioning and those kinds of things were kind of, that's like postmodernist analysis and those kinds of things. But it did start off, weirdly enough, a long time ago, like in 2007, 2008, as people who were mostly critiquing and making fun of conspiracy theorists and like the extreme like religious right, and then that was and they pretty much pushed all of like the hardcore evangelicals off of YouTube at one point. But then somebody who was a skeptic in that community said that she felt uncomfortable with a dude in an elevator, and all of a sudden and then it became about hating women. So that's oh yeah. Man.
I mean, like, yeah, okay, maybe in the history it was like maybe a bit more left, but I don't see them using a ton of left-wing language now. But
maybe if you this is Jacob Spangler, if you can give some examples, then maybe we can talk to it. Why is fascism on the rise? Because the liberal world order is falling apart.
Oh, Jacob says, like, Sargon constantly insists on being a left-winger.
Oh.
I mean, no, I think, like, classical liberalism, I mean, that was never really, like, left anyway. You know what I mean? And if you think about, like, when I think of, like, classical liberal economics, it's certainly not leftist. So, I don't know. I think the only reason he tried to say he was a left-winger is because then he could be like, this allows me to criticize them. I'm just criticizing them because I want to improve them. It's just kind of a way to, like, whatever, hide what he's really doing. But I don't see him co-opting language other than saying he's left-leaning. I don't even know if he says that anymore.
I don't think he does. I think, well, I think he's a shrewd capitalist who is capitalizing on this reactionary mood and saying whatever it needs. Because whenever he says his actual opinions about things, it turns out that he's like a closet Nazi. Like whenever he talks about things that show his real opinions, it's like these like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and 9/11 truther stuff. So I think that he might just be kind of whacked out, or he's just like high on a years-long steady stream of just having this safe space where everyone tells him he's awesome all the time. So he just thinks he's like the smartest human being on the planet or something at this point. I have no idea.
Yeah, he seems to.
Despite the fact that his debunking of the 1 in 5 study was not even completing the abstract of the paper that he read.
Mm-hmm. No,
so
he's literally the worst.
Yep. I was at VidCon last year too, and I remember all the shenanigans he pulled there too.
Wow.
I even got to meet the devil herself, and she was this tiny, very nice lady.
Wow.
And we talked about Emma Goldman. It was really fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I was like, when is it this year?
It's always in late June.
Okay.
All right. What do you guys think about the approaching channels that don't focus on skeptic or owning lefties, but something else entirely that have right-wing tendencies and introducing them to these concepts? Can you give me an example of this?
I can't think of literally one right-wing channel that isn't about skepticism or like triggering the libs.
Yeah. That's the other thing too, and this is why I kind of think that like the very online right has a there is like an empathy gap, because they like get off on quote unquote triggering the libs, and like it's literally about like, can we just make somebody miserable, and that makes us happy.
Exactly.
And sometimes it seems less about ideas and more about doing that.
Yeah. Like I can't really think of like well balanced, like reasoned right-wing content.
No. I don't know what that would look like. I mean, I think, I don't know, are there any like libertarians with bow tie type people on the internet who aren't just reactionaries?
Not that I know of.
Okay, this is a new one. So only bro 555 is my subscriber who always comes up with finding some weird corner of leftism that I've never heard of and putting it out. And this one is a new one. Progressive brown juche.
I have not heard of progressive brown juche.
I know all, like, it's like a lot of theory. It's like, I know all three of those words.
Right, yeah. What do they mean together?
Yeah. This is like, it's funny because, like, if, as you probably know, when the first time you ever have to read postmodernist or critical theory, and the first time you have to do it, like, it's usually your first master's level course, and you're reading a paragraph, and you're like, I literally know all of the words in this sentence, but I just can't make it happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can Google it. Or you
I could Google it. Yeah, it's. I mean, if it's like a left-wing alternative to juche, I mean, juche is like kind of a North Korean. Oh, apparently it's a YouTube channel.
Oh.
Okay. Progressive brown juche.
I'll have to check it out.
230 subscribers, and the new progressive Nazbol. Oh, this is a national Bolshevik. Have you? Okay, because only bro 555 brings up these guys a lot too. National Bolsheviks. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
I have not until this guy.
That's like just another meme. It's like Nazbol gang. All of these things are just ridiculous. People just come up with these like things just to be like, haha, like this is hilarious. You know what I mean? And it's just like, can we actually have some serious discussions?
Yeah.
Like, you know?
I do think that I do get strung along by teenagers quite a bit with my lack of knowledge.
Yeah. Well, maybe I won't be checking out the channel.
Yeah, you got trolled, epic style. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Yep.
I know he's saying it from a place of love, so it's okay.
Yeah.
So, oh man, see, these are the times where I'm like, I think I'm too old for the internet now. I think I just need to post pictures of my cat on Facebook and say like,
yeah.
You know what I really hate is just fake people.
Yeah.
That should be my. I think I need to retire to the internet's retirement home, which is Facebook.
Yeah, and just post like, ridiculousness.
Inane stuff. Picture of my eggs.
Yeah.
Because obviously I am too old for Twitter or YouTube or anything.
Yeah, I know. But I'm like, well, I still want to share information. So I'm like, I'm just going to share my stuff and then you all can do whatever you want, like around me. But
It's cool. It means at least there's energy in this realm. Even I don't know. So wait, the entire concept of National Bolshevism is a gag?
no, no, no. Like there is like national Bolshevism, but it's become a gag. Like it's just become this big like Nazbol gang like meme.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's just like Russian revanchism. Okay.
Yeah, no. I think it's just like Bolshevism, but nationalistic
Mm-hmm.
instead of internationalistic.
And that it does kind of speak into a thing going on in Eastern Europe that's a little terrifying, which is that there's like a generation that their parents grew up with the steady like anti-capitalist propaganda, but they grew up in a very dysfunctional socialist system. That now that both of those are kind of falling apart or that are gone, now they're just going like, "Hey, let's be Nazis again."
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. There's like a lot of shit going on there. I saw that like big march in Poland. It was quite scary.
Yeah, the new law where they're trying to minimize the role that Poland played in the Holocaust.
Mm.
It's like, oh,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
yeah. And yeah, to be scared I feel like if there's one thing that I can be grateful about living in Canada is that we can be a little bit less terrified of the kind of weird right wing that's coming out of like the United States and in Europe. And it's like, oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. It's like slightly. That's why I'm worried for future elections to see like where we're gonna go, because a lot of people are like inspired by Trump in the South, and that's quite disturbing to me. So we'll see.
I mean, they had someone try in the conservative race last time, but then she kind of was super awkward and strange.
Kelly Leach.
Yeah, the video of her doing the commercial, and it's just this, like,
oh my god, it was hilarious. It was amazing.
How did this get allowed on the internet? Okay. Yeah, that was a thing.
It was amazing. But yeah, no, I am still worried. Like I don't know. I guess we'll see. But
yeah, I mean, we do have Ezra and Le Rebel.
Yeah.
We do have a rise of neo-Nazi skinhead fascism in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
Like Quebec is getting into European-style hard right weirdness.
Mm-hmm. Which is gonna like because they also have a more lively left than we do here. So I feel like that's gonna be a big clash. I feel like if things get really bad, I'm just gonna move into like the north and like live in the forest, basically.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. I lived in Quebec for a number of years, and so I'm sometimes I get a little wistful for it, and then sometimes I don't, because Quebec is you said it has a more lively left, but it also has a more lively reactionary right. So because it's they had that Islamophobic law that got passed that basically killed the NDP in Quebec after the Orange Wave. I thought about this a lot because I'm making a video, or I made a video that comes out tomorrow about the big upset in the Bloc Québécois right now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cool.
Which
I'll check it out.
It was a whole thing. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna start winding down. So does anyone have any last questions for Mexie before I just let her get on with her day?
Someone asked if I know anything about the Japanese left, and I do not. I'm sorry.
They're a weird place because they have proportional representation, and so they have like the many political parties under 3 big coalitions.
That's interesting.
But I think that their center and center right coalitions tend to play footsie with each other. And right now they're in this situation where they're going, oh, like America is not really doing anything anymore because they have a president who looks like Ronald McDonald, and then they have you have China kind of flexing its muscles, and so they're like, let's like get really into nationalism and military stuff again. And it's like, oh
God,
please no. Why is that? Oh, why is it everyone's go-to when they're scared?
I know. Oh, it's just horrible. That's like that scares me more than what, what initially would scare me. That would scare me even more. It'd be like turning to the military.
They were banned from having a military for a number of years as part of the post-World War II treaty, and now they're like remilitarizing. And I mean, there's a logic to it with China getting more frisky in the Pacific, but still.
Well, and like North Korea, like being threatened and then like, taking aim at South Korea and Japan and everything. So,
so like they're like literally in the center of all this. So
yeah.
There's a logic to it, but still the nationalistic stuff. Please, why are we hung up on this idea? And I think it has something to do with some psychological principle where, like, when we're threatened, we become a lot more conservative and afraid and reactionary when we feel threatened. My wife is the psychologist. She would know what it's called rather than I. Callie, what's that called? That thing where, like, you're when you're afraid for your life, or when you think about death, you become more reactionary, conservative.
Yeah.
She'll get it. She'll think of it.
It'll take me a minute.
But
yeah.
But that's a thing that happens. I think maybe it's some sort of
really unfortunate.
Yep. I mean, and again, these are like mass. Again, it's like driven from fear. And what is it fear for? Why are these people feel threatened? And it's because capitalism's broken and it's breaking faster and faster every day.
Yeah. So let's double down on it in a militarized way.
All right. So I think I have taken up plenty of your Sunday. Thank you so much for coming out and talking to me and these yahoos for one afternoon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun. Sorry I had to delay it.
Yeah, no worries. I understand. Brunch is important.
Yes.
So that was not sarcastic. I think brunch is important.
Okay.
We were just talking about going out and meeting people. So
it's terror management theory.
Terror management theory. There you go.
All right. Okay.
So again, before we head out, what are your places where you can be found on the internet?
I can be found on YouTube at Mexie, Mexie, or at veganvanguardpodcast.com.
Excellent.
Yes.
Go there. Watch her videos. They are good.
Yes, thank you.
Especially the disaster capitalism ones. Those were really well done.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you guys all, I'll see you guys next month. I think it's all but confirmed. We're just working on the date, but it looks like March's Subscriber Appreciation Day is going to be with Peter Coffin. So
ooh,
fun times. We'll probably talk about his book in a more crunchy way than the video.
Very cool.
All right, folks.
I'll join the chat.
See you all later.
Bye.